Fred Fumbles Mortimer wasn't your typical zombie. He didn't crave brains. He wasn't out to terrorize the living. Fred just wanted to be helpful, which was difficult considering his clumsiness and the fact that he was, well, undead. You see, Fred's demise was as absurd as it was tragic. He choked on an ice cube during his office party. His death certificate read, "Death by frozen water," which was embarrassing enough, being a zombie who died that way. Mortifying, especially when you're a stickler for rules like Fred was. Even in death, he couldn't escape his awkward fate. His pale blue skin constantly had condensation on it, a permanent reminder of his chilling departure. Fred's afterlife began in the sleepy town of Pleasant Pines, a place where the most exciting event was the annual pie contest. Now undead and more than a little disoriented, Fred roamed the streets, his mismatched socks, a habit from life, peeking out from his worn-out shoes. He still wore his office ID card, the lanyard now dangling crookedly from his decaying shirt collar. His attempts at fitting in were, to put it mildly, disastrous. He tried to join a gardening club, only to accidentally uproot prize-winning tomatoes. He volunteered at the library, but kept mixing up the Dewey Decimal System, much to the librarian's dismay. Poor Fred. All he wanted was to be useful. His inability to navigate the world of the living was a constant source of frustration for him. He carried a notebook titled "Ways to be Useful," but often forgot he had it, his undead brain not as sharp as it used to be. In life, Fred Mortimer was the epitome of average. He was a file clerk at Dunder Mifflin Paper Company, a man who knew the Dewey Decimal System better than his own phone number. He lived a life of quiet routine, his greatest fear being the office coffee machine breaking down. It happened twice, and both times were catastrophic. He never took risks, always followed the rules, and preferred his company to be that of his goldfish, Marjorie. Now, cursed with an ironic afterlife, he was terrified of ice cubes. The sight of them sent shivers down his spine, or what was left of it. He carried a small thermos everywhere, filled with lukewarm chamomile tea, the only beverage he trusted. His clumsiness, however, was a constant. It followed him from life into death, an unwelcome companion. He tripped over air, bumped into things that weren't there, and spilled anything he touched. He was a walking disaster zone, a one-zombie apocalypse waiting to happen. One particularly foggy night, Fred's shambling walk led him to the town square. He noticed a group of teenagers vandalizing the beloved statue of Mayor Mildred Macmillan, Pleasant Pines' founder. Indignation, a feeling he hadn't felt since someone ate his yogurt at work, bubbled up inside him. He knew he had to act. Now remember, Fred was not built for confrontation. He was a lover, not a fighter. But something about those teenagers defacing dear old Mildred's statue sparked a fire in his undead heart. He gathered his courage, which mostly involved muttering motivational phrases to himself. "You can do this, Fred. Just try not to trip." What happened next could only be described as a comedy of errors, with Fred at the center of it all, but somehow, through a series of mishaps, fumbles, and sheer dumb luck, Fred managed to save the day. He became the unlikely hero of Pleasant Pines, his clumsiness for once working in his favor.